Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Trees with Cedarwood Financial Partners. I'm the COO, Alex Murphy. Next to me is our CFO, David Boothby, our CEO, Dylan Ripley, and our chairman, Todd Vincent. Today, we're going to talk about fulfillment. So let's go ahead and get this rolling. I think for the listeners who don't know Todd, you're all gas and no brakes. I think it's fair to say.
That's true.
So I imagine that stopping and thinking about fulfillment probably wasn't the easiest thing for you at earlier parts of your life, potentially. So I thought it might be valuable to hear your story a little bit and what has brought you to this stage where now I continuously hear you talk about fulfillment along with the other core values of the firm.
Which part of my story? There's like 55 years of story. Which part do you want to hear?
Whatever brought you to the point where you're thinking about fulfillment.
Well, here's what I could say. Fulfillment is almost an elusive thing because it's different at different phases of your life. And I think that's what you begin to recognize the older you get married, you have kids, that your attitude, the things that are most important kind of shift a little bit. And you realize that there's two things they're not making any more of. That's land, especially in Texas, and time. So there is only so much time, and how you spend your time ultimately is going to dictate your fulfillment. So for me, at this phase of my life, it's more about, I love the outdoors and I love being around people. And so everything that my wife and I are doing on a personal level are trying to maximize our fulfillment of being around people, serving others, being outdoors. So we've kind of have a ranch that's a venue, and there's animals, and there's always something to fix, like a fence.
Sore subject right now.
That's true.
No, I think that's good. Dylan, for you on a personal level, taking out the business side of life completely. So on a personal level, what's fulfillment look like? What are you trying to chase there?
Yeah, so Alex and I play in this Mulligan Cup every year, and so fulfillment here
Pause real quick. Who's the reigning champion, Captain?
I was getting to it.
Okay.
Here in about a week and a half, we're going. This will be our 7th year, I think. But long story short, that's when I'll reach true fulfillment. Todd mentioned it being a moving target. It won't be moving then when we take down Alex, who's the reigning champ. But no, on a serious note, I think fulfillment for me. Gosh, it's such a deep word, and as you mentioned, I think we put a lot more, as we were going through due diligence and launching Cedarwood, we just put so much more emphasis on, are we truly fulfilled? And fulfillment to me is just continuing to enjoy the journey of life, the highs and the lows. I think we've all had lows in our life, but we find fulfillment on the other side of those when we overcome those moments, and then it just makes you appreciate the highs a lot more. And I know you said don't bring business into it, but I firmly believe that Cedarwood was an answered prayer to that for me. I just found my purpose more both in the office and out of the office. That's why it's important. I just have so much more fulfillment in both, and I think they're not exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive, business and life. I think you have to be fulfilled in both, because if you're not fulfilled in one, or you're rubbing up against something, and that's not to say that in my prior firm I wasn't enjoying things. I was, but I just felt like I was not reaching my full potential. And part of that was just being in a captive environment. You're in leadership. You're not really necessarily a leader. You're a manager. You're a voice box for the corporation that you represent. Here now with the optionality that we have and the freedom and the flexibility, I'm able just to live fulfilled. And I'm right there with Todd, all gas, no brakes, and I can now live that way. Both in the office and out of the office. But out of the office, fulfillment to me is spending that time with family, making those memories and the experiences and all of the joy that comes from that.
Love it. What are you doing to chase fulfillment, DB?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the word journey. It's a journey. I mean, it's different at different phases in life. I think the shift was from a corporate setting to what we're doing now the corporate setting was more like a hamster on a wheel. You couldn't make as many choices that directly impacted what you can or want to do. And now I think you have my fulfillment, at least, is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And, having that journey with my family. We got a lot of stuff going on this year. My daughter's getting married, starting her master's program. Other son's in college. We're trying to navigate being empty nesters. So there's a lot going on. And I think it's that journey of just being able to spend the time where you want to spend it, with who you want to spend it, on your timeline.
So we picked fulfillment as one of our core values for a reason. And because, as you said, Dylan, it's such a deep word, it's broad and it means things to different people. And so if you actually put our, when we give tours in the office and we're talking about different conference rooms that have our core values labeled actually on the glass, when you talk about your faith, family, freedom, we say it in such a way that if you have your family, if you have your faith, and you have freedom to choose lots of things, how can you not be fulfilled? Well, all of those 4 F's mean something different to each person, but they are still connected. So the coolest thing about fulfillment in this career, in just being in this career, is that if you work hard, you're probably going to have a little bit more freedom, at least materialistically, to be fulfilled. But back to what I started with time. When you're independent, you really get to choose the time you're going to spend on certain things. Like I still get fulfilled when I'm making a presentation to someone who's, investing is not their thing. They worked 40 years at the manufacturer, and their fulfillment is they want to buy an RV and they want to travel. And this is not their thing, the whole financial side. I get great fulfillment when I kind of do investment 101 and tell them how it's going to work and affirm that they're going to get their paycheck no matter where they're at, and you see their face light up. Like, I am fulfilled in that regard right there at that moment. But, when we were, as Dylan was saying, when we're over at maybe a W-2 or a corporate type structure, you can get some fulfillment for sure. But as the dynamics change, you get older, it might not be necessarily that I'm in the office every day. I remember counseling or talking to veterans who had been in the business a long time and they're later in life, and I'm trying to inspire and motivate them to produce more. And they're like, that's not what I want to do. That's not bringing me fulfillment at this phase of my life. I want to spend time training dogs, hunting with my kids. I want to go to all the Baylor football games. I mean, so I think that's why it's a very cool word that we have as our core value.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And to me, one thing I've found with retirees and people in business as well is they struggle to see what they've never seen before. And so a lot of people work until they're going to die because they don't know what retirement can look like or what life after work looks like because they've never seen it. And so to me, a big part of our vision has been, let's show people what chasing fulfillment looks like. Let's help people envision that for themselves. Let's learn what that is for them, and then let's help them achieve it. For y'all, David, I'll pick on you first. How do you envision us helping people to truly chase that?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have worked all their life. They're what we consider savers, right? And so one of the challenges sometimes is when they get to retirement, we have to almost prod or push them to do what they want to do and spend some money on that family trip, take their whole family to Disney World or whatever they want to do. You almost have to coach them into doing that and, having your arm around them saying, it's going to be okay. Here's the data. Here's the planning. We've done our job. You've done your job of working and saving. Now it's time to go have fun with what you want to do. So I think that's part of it, is just the unknown to a person that's worked all their life and they don't really know what that looks like on the other side, and being able to sit down with them on a grease board or whatever it looks like and say, this is what your paycheck can look like without you punching a clock. And, oh, by the way, you can take this vacation without having to worry about what age 90 looks like, because you have done well and done what you're supposed to do all this time.
Todd, I'm gonna transition to you on you've started to build out your team. I know it's still a hectic time because your business continues to grow. So you're trying to grow the team. The business is still growing, so you almost can't offload it quickly enough probably to have more partners. But have you felt that you've been able to chase more fulfillment since you've been growing your team? I mean, is that something that fuels you to help others build their teams out?
Yes, obviously it takes time. I mean, anytime you bring in a new staff member, whether it's just someone who is going to meet clients at the front door and gather information for preparing for appointment, there's a transition period where they still want to talk to Todd or that front desk person. So it gets a little bit more complicated when you're going to have someone being introduced in on their plan, their investment plan. But to answer your question, it's yes, because the quicker that, like David is one of my partners, we start to speak the same language, and he starts to do more, say, some of the buys or different things, then this more quickly for me to go on to the next client, where I do get fulfilled when you're helping discover their dreams and, hey, here's how we're going to get there. And I really love that part. And now it's like, but there's work that goes behind after they said yes. So yes, right now I have much more fulfillment at work. I'm still trying to get my time back, but we're a new firm and we have big aspirations. So it's a trade-off that I'm willing to make right now to have greater fulfillment later. This whole topic of fulfillment actually is pretty challenging, because I was thinking, like, if someone asked you to write down right now what gives you the greatest fulfillment in life, like, how would you answer that question? So I would put it right back at you. Like, if we are just literally sitting here having a cup of coffee, and I'm going to say to you, what's your greatest fulfillment right now in life? What would that be? How would you answer?
Well, I think fulfillment's interesting because for me, it's been when things are taken away, I've realized that what I was chasing maybe wasn't what was giving it to me. So sports was my life from 3 years old probably until I was 22. And I had an injury my sophomore year in college. And all of a sudden, it was like, well, who am I? What am I trying to do here? So then I transitioned to being a financial advisor, and it was get to level 1, achieve it, feel nothing. Continue to set new goals, achieve them, feel nothing. So then it was, all right, if I took that out of the equation, what gives me fulfillment? Well, I realized that for me, my whole life was really driven towards having a family. So when I was 15, I got good grades because I wanted to have a family someday. I wanted to get a job just so I could support my family. Like everything was strictly based on that. So spending time with my kids and Trisha is really what gives me fulfillment, and friends too. I think, chasing the Lord has been a big thing for me, and that I can tell when I'm doing a good job or a bad job when I'm sitting in church on Sunday, because I either feel like I'm on fire or I feel like, why am I not on fire? So truly, I guess the answer there is putting time in with people who I value is where I find most of my fulfillment, and then helping people achieve things that make them happy.
Yeah.
I can just a personal story. We can edit this out if Alex doesn't want to put this on. But he's definitely, has this mentality of his family is probably at the peak. So much so that he and Trisha were dating, and his parents are, older, but he wanted to give them a grandchild, and they weren't even engaged yet. And the way he was going to do this is he was actually going to adopt a child so that his parents could feel what it's like for him to have a kid and be grandparents. And this was before he was married. But I say that just to say how important that is, and how selfless Alex is about always thinking about others, even when it puts you in an extremely awkward situation with your then girlfriend.
Yeah, Trisha didn't feel as positively about me being a giver in that scenario. She was like, sitting right here, dude. So live and learn, right?
If you guys had to think about, use another word to describe fulfillment, what word would you use?
Experience. That's what it is to me. It's an experience that, and again, I said it earlier, it's the highs and the lows. I don't think that, it comes in just the joys of life. You find fulfillment. We had a great message a few weeks ago at church where we talked about endure the storms and avoid the shipwrecks. And so what that means is, like, everybody goes through storms in life. And what's going to pull you through to the other side is just having faith. Well, how are you going to have faith? It's like, well, I've been through this before, so I know that as long as I stay faithful and I continue putting one foot in front of the other, I can see the other side of that. So for me, that's what fulfillment is, and that's why it is outside of the Mulligan Cup next week, a moving target. Because it's just continuing to stack those experiences together, and being here, being independent, breaking away. Just so much more opportunity for far more experiences, and for me, that's where I find the fulfillment. And as Alex said, I think we all adopt that mentality. It's one of our core principles: be a giver. And so we love to serve, and so now we just have endless possibilities to serve clients, advisors, and just really build something that will withstand time and continue serving people far after we're no longer in these chairs.
Yeah, I would agree with the building something. I guess my engineering background, building something is probably part of the fulfillment. Even though we were part of leadership team, things like that in the other firm, which was, great to be part of that, there's a lot more skin in the game directionally with building something here, and building something that's going to last generations, even after we're gone. It's pretty cool.
Word that comes to mind for me is satisfaction. I think it's a really hard thing to feel in general. I mean, I eat a nice steak and I do feel satisfied, but in general, I want to have a life well lived when I look back. So, whether it's into my career, I want to look back and say, man, even if everything didn't go perfectly, I tried it. I gave it. I want to push myself to my limits and see who I am. I think it's when you experience your core. And I think the same thing with life. I want to know, I pushed myself for my friends. When someone needed something, I was the one who was there. For my family, I was the first person there. And then I want to look back and hope I feel satisfied with what I've done. And like I said, it hasn't always been the case in the past. It's like, all right, well, there's things that you chased that weren't satisfying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you said that well. Like, another way might be to express what you said by saying, like, living a life without regret. Like, I would rather, personally, if I had to live with regret, I want to live with the regret of, I tried something and I made a mistake. I regret that mistake, versus I regret that I didn't try. Because you're going to learn from your mistakes, for sure. And that's part of that life experience thing. So, I think everybody's hitting on, it's a culmination of a lot of things, like your experiences, your where you are in life, success, failures, little things in a day, like a presentation to a client, to having a whole bunch of people come to stay at our place and you didn't have to charge them a nickel and you just saw smiles on their faces.
Yeah. So. And I think, you mentioned it earlier about climbing the levels in the corporate ladder. I think just as we find fulfillment in the experiences, there are people out there that find fulfillment in climbing that ladder. Like, that's what they want to do, and that's what fires them up. Man, I mean, I think that's great too. I think it's just all about what experience are you craving, and what is it that you're wanting to do with your life. And if it is climbing that ladder, then W-2 environments, that's your jam. Stay there, do your thing. If it's, trying new things all the time and having more control over the outputs of the business and the inputs, I guess, then I think that's where, independence is obviously a much better option for you to achieve that.
Definitely. And I think one thing for us, when it's not just us, right? And most advisors love their staff. And so we try to put energy into building a community for our staff to hopefully help them feel fulfillment as well. I think it's an easy position, some of them, to, if you wanted to, you can get in the position and you can cruise control, and you don't have to push yourself necessarily, and you don't have to build relationships if you don't want to. Our goal is to give them the opportunity to do that. And so when people are looking to join us potentially, we want to make sure that their whole team is feeling better about what they're doing than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do that through the community aspect, right? So our staff has their community and weekly meetings throughout the firm, and training plans, all of those good things, so that if they do want to excel and continue building, they have that ability, and we're trying our best to provide every resource we can for them to do that. And then, they have a path to owning a piece in the firm too, and I think that's extremely impactful for staff to be rowing in the same direction. And we always say, we want them to be involved just as much as we are. So, we send out the weekly updates. It's not just, hey, here are the numbers, here's where everything stands. It's like, here's what we're working towards as a firm, so that they always know. And occasionally they'll raise their hand and say, hey, I can help there, or I can help here. And that's just powerful when everybody's involved in that, in building something bigger than us. That buy-in is huge, and some of them will push the envelopes of, I want to continue to grow. Some of them will, I'm really good at what I do, and that's what I want to do. That's fine. You've both are fine. If you find fulfillment in, I have my processes down, and I want to come in every day and execute on my processes, we want you to live fulfilled. If you want to continue to push boundaries and say, hey, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, heck, I want to get licensed, I want to start, maybe working with clients a little more directly, we want you to be able to do that too.
And I mean, it's probably common in our industry when, an advisor and his assistant work together hand in hand over many years, that, they appreciate their staff, et cetera, but we really do a good job of understanding their why. Why is it important to them? And then trying to map out some goal-oriented type tasks to help them achieve their why, or, push them in a direction that they want to be pushed, or sometimes they don't want to be, and so we back off. But we understand that, there's certain that family is important to them. So, a bonus or monetary isn't as important as maybe time off to go see family. But it's just understand that why. And I think, the advisors that we're looking to recruit or be part of Cedarwood probably already have a lot of that figured out with their staff as well.
No doubt. Any last touches here? I mean, I'm just soaking it all in. I'll be thinking about this my whole drive back.
No doubt, man.
All right. Thanks for your time, Dylan. Appreciate you. Well, thanks for visiting again for another episode of Beyond the Trees. We'll see you next time.